Let me tell you something I see constantly in my practice. You walk into a room, you meet her, and the conversation flows. But underneath the charm, there's a quiet, invisible process at work. You think you're having a date, but you're actually sitting for the emotional entrance exam of romance, a discreet, instinctual test of your inner composure. As a professional working in the world of interpersonal dynamics, I often hear men frustrated by what they call games or manipulation. They feel like they're constantly walking through a subtle minefield, waiting for the next pop quiz. The text messages are delayed, a small boundary is pushed, or an argument flares up out of nowhere. You might replay the last text, the pause after your joke, or the sudden silence, wondering if you did something wrong. This feeling of being constantly evaluated can take away from the intimacy of a relationship, replacing curiosity with surveillance and trust with examination. But here's the truth, the uncomfortable psychological reality that shifts everything. These tests are rarely conscious, calculated cruelty. They are deep, instinctual calibrations. They are not designed to punish you. They are designed to locate your foundation. In essence, whether she's flirting for the first time or 3 years into a relationship, the feminine psyche is asking a simple, powerful question in 1,000 subtle ways. Can I trust you when the storm comes? The evolutionary logic of emotional testing. To understand why women perform these subtle evaluations, we need to move beyond simple dating advice and look at human survival. Psychologists often point to mate selection pressure. Throughout history, the choice of a bad partner, especially for a woman facing the risks of pregnancy and child-rearing, could ruin survival chances. So, across evolution, women developed sharper, more subtle filters. Anyone can say they are confident, kind, or loyal, but those words are cheap. The truth leaks out when there is pressure, like shaking a soda can. Women are not primarily testing for perfection. They are testing for presence. They are looking for reliable signals of quality, and those signals must be costly to fake, following what evolutionary biologists call the handicap principle. If you stay calm under playful teasing, that's hard to fake if you are internally insecure. If you show patience in small frustrations, that's costly if you are impulsive. These subtle tests are essentially a primitive stress test. This is why, when a woman tests you, she's gauging your emotional strength, which is fundamentally different from physical strength. Real strength is not about having the louder voice in an argument. It is composure, the ability to stay steady when someone else's emotions sway. Emotionally weak men defend and react, but leaders in life and in relationships speak from their core, their frame. The truth is, women get just as insecure and nervous as guys do. Her test often stems from her own feelings of vulnerability and insecurity. She wants that strong, masculine presence in her life, someone who will stand by her and keep her steady. She is not testing your financial status or your looks. She is testing the emotional gravity you carry. The frame, your invisible armor. Every interaction you have is fundamentally a negotiation for frame. Frame control refers to the body of skills and attitudes that create shared meaning and shape the narrative in an exchange. When you have a strong frame, you control the interpretation of the situation. For instance, one man sending flowers is seen as a desperate loser, but another man doing the exact same thing is seen as a romantic, assertive leader. It all depends on the frame he projects. A weak frame means that women are much more likely to interpret your actions negatively. Your assertiveness looks needy, your interest looks desperate. When you lose the frame, you lose attraction, because women are simply not attracted to guys who don't live within their own unwavering perspective. The problem for many men is that they operate from a weak, volatile frame. Their self-opinion is fragile. If a girl blows them off or makes an offhand comment, their ego is obliterated. Their success is highly situational because they are highly reactive and susceptible to falling into other people's frames. You might be a good guy trying to earn safety through approval, but effort without awareness often fails. But how do you cultivate an immovable frame? You must be willing to perceive yourself positively and build a strong worldview, a perspective on the world that is valid and tested. You must anchor yourself to higher principles like strength, trust, safety, and respect. Dissecting the subtle tests, what she's really watching. The tests she throws your way are multifaceted, examining everything from your integrity under pressure to your emotional availability. They don't always sound like tests. They arrive as delays, mixed signals, or a challenge to your opinions. Tests of emotional composure, the storm check. These tests are designed to find out if your emotions follow hers or hold their own shape. She wants to know if you stay grounded in the storm. The chaos test. This happens when she suddenly shifts tone, triggers conflict, or throws a mood swing for seemingly no reason. She might pick a fight over something small. Your composure during stressful situations reveals your emotional stability and maturity. Men who fly off the handle at minor inconveniences raise red flags about how they'll behave when real relationship conflicts arise. Your job is to stay grounded and be the calm in the storm. The unexpected plan. Change. Life rarely follows a script. When reservations fall through or weather ruins plans, she's observing your adaptability and problem-solving skills. Do you pivot gracefully without blaming others, or do you collapse into frustration? This flexibility is crucial because it indicates how you'll approach bigger life changes like career shifts or family planning. The delay test. The silence. She withdraws, stops texting, or grows quiet, sometimes purposively delaying her response. This is not always a punishment. It's a scan for your emotional independence. If you panic, flood the silence with overthinking, or chase, you reveal neediness. The lesson here is that masculine energy breathes in stillness. You pass by staying calm, focusing on your mission, and letting her return to your center. Tests of integrity and consistency, the character check. These tests evaluate your fundamental decency and whether your kindness is conditional or genuine. Consistency in your behavior reveals integrity that extends beyond the initial dating facade. The value treatment test. How you behave toward service workers, waiters, cashiers, staff, doesn't go unnoticed. If you are rude to a server but charming to her, it suggests your kindness is performative. Women view this as a quiet test of your compassion and patience regardless of someone's status. A secure man shows consistent respect to everyone he encounters. The friend observation. When meeting her social circle, she's watching how you interact. Are you genuinely interested in them, remembering names and asking thoughtful questions, or are you merely tolerating them? Your treatment of her friends reflects how you value what is important to her. The decision-making pattern. Women, like many people vetting a long-term partner, are keenly listening to your stories about your past. They are looking at your history of decision-making regarding finances, work, and former partners. She is listening for patterns: impulsivity, poor grasp of consequences, or consistently blaming others for your choices. A red flag is if nothing is ever her fault. A strong man acknowledges mistakes, ties them to improvement, and takes accountability. Tests of confidence and leadership, the authority check. In the subtle dance of dating, she challenges you to see if your belief holds firm. Challenging your decisions, beliefs. She questions your ideas, your confidence, or your beliefs, sometimes lightly, sometimes pointedly. She is testing your clarity. If you explode or retreat, she feels unsafe. If you immediately defend and react, you reveal emotional weakness. The secure response is to stand firm and calmly state your position, operating from a place of understanding rather than the need to win. The comparison test. She mentions another man's success or attractiveness, or compares you to others. This is often a test of your jealousy and insecurity. The insecure man chases, accuses, or panics. The secure man stays cool and stands firm in quiet self-assurance, insisting on splitting the bill or other small concessions. When she offers to split the bill, she might be testing whether you will insist on paying. She wants to see if you will accept the offer, or if you will maintain a leading posture. Similarly, a man with a strong frame maintains his conviction and doesn't compromise his principles or morals for approval. Tests of vulnerability and intimacy, the trust check. Woman's primary tests involve opening up to see if you are a safe person. The vulnerability test. She shares personal stories or insecurities to see how you respond. Do you listen attentively without judgment, Or do you dismiss her feelings or immediately try to fix the problem, thereby making it about yourself? Men who can hold space for vulnerability without self-focus pass with flying colors, demonstrating emotional availability and trustworthiness. The independence gauge. Strong women test how comfortable you are with their autonomy. Do you support her girls' night out without constant texting? Do you respect her career ambitions? Your reaction reveals whether you see her as an equal partner or a possession. Supporting her separate interests demonstrates security in yourself and the relationship, separating controlling personalities from those who understand healthy relationships. The boundary respect challenge. Early on, women establish small boundaries, declining a kiss, requesting to take things slowly, defining personal space, to see if you will respect larger boundaries later. Your graceful acceptance of boundaries without guilt-tripping or pressure demonstrates trust and emotional intelligence. If you honor small boundaries without resistance, you show that her comfort matters more than your immediate desires. The dark side. When testing becomes abuse, it is absolutely crucial to distinguish between natural, subconscious relational filtering, the tests we've discussed, and toxic manipulative abuse. While natural testing seeks reassurance of your strength, toxic testing and covert abuse seek control. Covert abuse is insidious because it involves subtle, hidden tactics that are difficult to spot. The confusion it generates causes victims to internalize the belief that something is wrong with them, rather than the partner. Here are the signs that you are no longer facing a test, but a pattern of abuse. Gaslighting and rewriting history. This is the ultimate crazy-making tactic. The abuser changes the narrative to support their lies, denying they ever said or did something. "I never said that," or "your memory is wrong." The intent is to cause the victim to doubt their own perspectives and sense of reality. Blame shifting and minimization. The abuser refuses to take responsibility for a situation, assigning liability to you. They may belittle your perspective to make what you value seem unimportant, attacking your self-worth. For example, after directing a sarcastic joke at you, they blame you for being too sensitive when you disapprove. The withholding tactic, punishment. The abuser uses withdrawal of intimacy, refusing loving physical touch or giving the silent treatment as a form of punishment. This is designed to make you feel desperate for connection, compelling you to apologize or drop the conflict just to restore peace. Coercive control. This escalates the manipulation beyond arguments into life control. Examples include monitoring your activities, checking your phone or tracking your movements, isolating you from friends and family, "they hate me," controlling finances to maintain dependency, or publicly shaming vulnerabilities you once shared in confidence. In an abusive dynamic, you start living in a state of chronic stress and confusion. You may find yourself walking on eggshells, trying desperately to control the abusive outbursts by being cautious and doing everything perfectly. If a woman disrespects you after you've stayed calm and led with strength, it is not a test anymore. It is a toxic pattern. Walk away. The Expert's Toolkit. How to pass every time. Passing these inevitable tests is not about learning tricks. It is about reclaiming your calm and embodying strength. The goal is to move from unconscious reaction to conscious, grounded response. This requires embracing the discipline of frame control and the mindset of stoicism. Master your inner state. Respond. Don't react. Emotional weakness is defined by reaction, defending, justifying, or arguing. True power is quiet. Practice composure, the micro-pause. When you feel triggered, pause. Give yourself a few seconds of silence before answering any test-like question. This interrupts the automatic defensiveness and signals self-possession. You stay calm, not cold. Speak from your frame, never react by entering their narrative. Instead, acknowledge their intensity, but maintain your position. For example, when someone escalates, you might say, "I can tell you feel strongly about this, but..." and then calmly state your boundary or opinion. Stay grounded in chaos. When emotions swirl, whether hers or yours, stay still. If she is speaking with high emotions or aggression, you may need to meet her on the same level of intensity or passion to stop the onslaught, a technique known as fighting fire with fire. But even when matching passion, your response must be controlled, not explosive. Translate tests into direct requests. Often, A test is a clumsy attempt to ask for reassurance. You can diffuse the test by addressing the underlying emotional need, not the superficial content. Decode the fear. When faced with a pop quiz, do you remember what I said last week? A pause and ask yourself, what is my partner afraid of right now? What reassurance are they seeking? John Bowlby's attachment theory suggests that testing is often an attempt to manage underlying fears of abandonment or neglect. Respond to the need. Instead of scrambling to prove you remember the exact words, respond to the psychological need for safety. For example, it sounds like you want to know that I really hold on to what you share with me. I do. Tell me the part that feels most important so I don't miss it. This shifts the dynamic from an exam to a dialogue about connection. Use humor strategically. Humor can be a powerful tool for maintaining the lead and achieving your goals. If you suffer a small power loss, like being corrected on a detail, instead of escalating, concede the small point with a joke. For example, if she says her mom didn't love her, instead of arguing, concede with humor. Okay, all mothers except yours. Then gently reconnect. Jokes aside, I'm sorry to hear that. This shows you're secure enough to absorb a minor setback without threat. Set and protect your boundaries. Boundaries are not walls of defense. They are signals of self-respect and maturity. You must set limits with calm firmness. Be clear and consistent. If her tests cross boundaries or make you uncomfortable, express your limits respectfully. Say no without anger and walk away without drama. If she repeatedly tests your patience by canceling plans, express your limits. I understand that sometimes things come up, but I'd appreciate it if we could stick to our plans or communicate changes earlier. Consistency and following through on your commitments is key, as reliability builds trust. Focus on repair, not scorekeeping. Mistakes happen, even when you're trying to pass the tests. If you forget something important, apologize, reassure her, and move on. In a healthy relationship, the focus is on repairing the emotional rupture quickly, not on keeping a running record of failed exams. Stop the urge to engage in the performance reflex of trying to earn love by over-remembering or over-delivering. Remind yourself, love here is not graded. Impose your frame when necessary. Sometimes you must stick to your guns and impose your frame, not by being an asshole, but by holding your conviction. When dealing with moral or ethical challenges, appeal to a higher principle to shame the low-power move. For instance, if she suggests a transactional view of dating, you only want sex, you can counter with a frame based on high-power vulnerability, implying a deeper, more honorable emotional standard. The rebirth of the grounded man. The journey out of the testing cycle is not about learning new tricks to manipulate women. It's about unlearning the habits that made you lose yourself. The ultimate goal is not to control women, but to reclaim your internal calm. Self-awareness is the first necessary step to healing. When you stop asking, "Why is she testing me?" and start asking, "Why am I reacting so much?" the mirror finally appears. You realize her criticism wasn't an attack. It was a spotlight on your insecurity. The emotional storm wasn't sent to destroy you. It was sent to expose your foundation. This path requires a fundamental shift in perception. Embrace authenticity over performance. Stop performing and attempting to earn love through compliance. True masculinity demands presence, the ability to sit in discomfort without running, and to let someone see your flaws without hiding behind a facade. Cultivate emotional strength. This strength is not about suppressing feelings, but about expressing them healthily and then acting to resolve the issue. Emotionally strong people are more adaptable to change, learn from mistakes, and recover quicker from rejection. Learn to identify your feelings not just through thought, "I think," but through physical response, "I feel." Lead with calmness. Your calm is your kingdom. Guard it. Refuse to fight for attention or engage in emotional chaos. The man who can sit in silence without losing his center becomes a lighthouse, a gravitational force that others navigate by. By living from a grounded vision, where your calm leads the room and your silence carries weight, you stop taking things personally. You stop mistaking a test for a threat. Awareness without action is just philosophy. Growth begins when you choose not to repeat the old story. The complexity of modern relationships, driven by shifting gender roles, economic instability, and the decline of traditional milestones, means that men and women alike are seeking stronger foundations. As young adults often view long-term commitment as tenuous and prefer negotiating relationships based on rational choice and functional needs, rather than unstable, passionate love, the assessment of character and stability becomes paramount. When choosing a long-term partner, people are now relying on a cautious commitment process, watching how a potential partner handles various situations over time, a process likened to observing someone's psychological coping strategies. Women, particularly those seeking a lifetime partner, use these subtle tests as a complicated screening tool to assess a man's character, values, and intentions. They are seeking emotional maturity and the intimate communication skills necessary for an enduring friendship-based romantic relationship. The way a man handles these interactions, by maintaining composure, respecting boundaries, and demonstrating consistent reliability, is directly linked to higher relationship satisfaction. Conversely, anxious attachment, characterized by dependency and fear of abandonment, is consistently linked to lower relationship satisfaction because it manifests as clinginess, jealousy, and emotional instability. You see, the truth is, her test is simply a mirror. It reflects where you are already cracked, where your fear lies, and where you are trading authenticity for peace. The ultimate victory is not in passing her tests, but in dismantling the very idea that love requires them. When you are the man you were meant to become, calm, confident, and centered, you elevate the relationship itself. You become the steady hand in a shaking world, protecting your peace rather than your ego. Because strength isn't about dominance, it's about groundedness. Focus on embodying authenticity, and you will attract and sustain a connection built on mutual respect and unwavering trust.